Hello, good evening, everyone, and we are back with another day of Kart Rider Drift League. My name is Will Cho, joined by State today, our first time casting this preseason, and we have a heck of a day lined up today.
Oh, it should be a stellar one. We got 4 teams all contesting for playoff spots, facing off the team match, and then we have Hojun and JJONG battling it out.
Heck yeah.
And the round of 16 in solos. I mean, it doesn't really get better than this during the preseason part of the preseason, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this feels like a postseason day already.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right? Like you said, we've got, what we would probably argue are still the 4 strongest teams, although currently we'll take a look at the leaderboard here in a second. Of course, Aura not quite holding on to 4th place on their own. They are tied for it. But at the same time, I mean, solos, the entire round of 16 is currently just absolutely star-studded. We had the match 1 yesterday, and then match 2, the second group today, just as stacked. It's kind of hard to tell which ones will move on. But of course, as it is, it's the weekend, so we have team matches and solos, and we will be beginning with those team matches. Take a look at how everything shakes up during the preseason. We got 8 teams. We go through the round-robin main stage, and then the top 4 will move on to the postseason.
Yeah, and a lot of those teams still vying for those spots. Of course, ROX, Live Sandbox, KWANGDONGFREECS, 3 teams that are playing today that, all but assuredly will be vying for those top 4 and will be qualified for the postseason. Aura right now, as you see here in the standings, tied with Sensation right on the cusp of being top 4. That is the cutoff here. Both tied 2-2 in set scores in round. Only 1 round difference between Sensation and Aura. So Aura, their performance here in the first match against SEONGNAMROX could be very important to deciding their fate here.
Yeah,
KDL
absolutely.
Preseason 2.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge, right? If they can beat ROX, then for one, they'll obviously get that 3-2 scoreline, and then it's up to Sensation, balls back in their court. But those two, I think, will constantly kind of go back and forth in terms of their win-loss record, and we might even have to wait until the very last matchup to see which one of those teams will take the top 4 spots. But like you mentioned, State, probably the top 3 still going to be Live Sandbox, KWANGDONGFREECS, and SEONGNAMROX. So we start with ROX versus Aura today. Then we move on to Live Sandbox and KWANGDONGFREECS, which, mind you, both teams are currently undefeated. So one of them will finally get their first loss of this preseason.
Yeah, and that's going to be a crazy match. I mean, that could very easily be the finals again here in KDL Preseason 2. And for many seasons to come, these teams just consistently looking so strong here in the KDL. And then, of course, in the solo match, we got Luning, we got JJONG, Hero, Hojun, Spear, Most, Spell, and Jimin. I mean, even the rookie, Most, is looking strong in this group, and it's just riddled with veterans. We're finally going to get JJONG versus Hojun, too, which we did not get to see at all in KDL Preseason 1. JJONG was just doing the team matches there for ROX, so... Oh, it's great. I am very glad that I'm casting today, and I'm going to see JJONG face off against Hojun here because, who knows how many more times we'll get to see it this season, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is kind of a matchup a lot of people have wanted to see. I mean, Hojun's kind of that figure, right? Although, sure, he looked a little shaky in preseason 1, it seems like he's really getting back into form, really kind of catching on to the nuances of Kart Rider Drift. But we can talk more about that once we get to the solo match at the end of the night. First off, we've got our team matches to go through, and our very first team to welcome onto the stage tonight will be SEONGNAMROX.
SEONGNAMROX playing very well this season. I mean, they looked incredible in Preseason 1 on the back of JJONG's ace match heroics, but here in Preseason 2, just all around way more solid. Would not be surprised to see these guys make a deep run towards that championship contention as they've really filled out their roster here. They've gotten better item mode, which was a critical weakness for them in Preseason 2, and or Preseason 1, excuse me. And now here in Preseason 2, they don't even really need JJONG to solidify their position anymore. They're just playing so well.
Yeah, again, I think that's the biggest thing, right, is that they don't really have to rely on JJONG as much as, of course, he is still a superstar. But their opponents today is going to be Aura, and every time we welcome this team on the stage, we always like to mention, sure, they don't have a pro team banner, behind them with the support and the infrastructure. However, the players, the roster is still a pretty strong lineup, and a lot of teams recognize them in Preseason 1, and that's why they made a deep run in the last preseason, and they're looking to do the same this time.
Yeah, with the Noctec duo in item mode, a lot of people were looking to them to be a force here in KDL Preseason 2 in item, but with the meta shift, the new rule changes, the balancing of item mode, it's not really been shaken out, but the addition of Luning to that roster as their new speed ace has been so clutch. Can't wait to get into this action, Will.
Yeah, again, I think the other story here between these two teams is that they clearly have made some good changes and additions to their roster, right? So we take a look at SEONGNAMROX. The biggest story is Ding. He comes in, and I mean, just look at that stat line. He is in first place in average rank with a Absolutely incredible number.
Yeah, his average rank so far this season, 1.57. So that's pretty much halfway split between first and second place in nearly every track in team mode. And just to put into perspective how insane that is ROX, they just decide they don't even need to track talk Aura.
Yeah, they just say, it's not worth our time. We're just going to focus on the race itself. But yeah, let's talk a little bit further about Ding's stat here.
Yeah, so Ding right now, his average rank in team speed, 1.57, right between first and second place. Now, the gap between him and the second place ranking player Hero on Team Aura, the runner with 3.06, is as wide as the gap between Hero and Spear, who's in 18th. So, I mean, Ding right now, he truly stands alone at the top of team speed. He has been so clutch for this team, and I mean, what a fantastic addition. ROX just looking so strong, and Aura, it's going to be an uphill battle if they want to beat him, man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we always like to say Aura's a strong team, and like you mentioned, I mean, Hero, he's constantly getting those podium finishes, and to have an average of third place, basically, across all your tracks that you've done in team speed is very impressive. I mean, if Ding wasn't here, we would be praising Hero out the wazoo, but Ding just says, well, why not just get first every time, right? Just get a #1 average, you know, ranking in all of your tracks. So that's where Hero's getting a little bit eclipsed. Of course, Aura just saying, okay, well, Sensation won last night. That puts us in a little bit of danger of making it to that playoff stage here in Preseason 2. So they're really trying to look to solidify their position once again tonight.
They're going to take out their anger as, you know, losses. It's hard to take those well. A little bit of frustration here on Team Aura as, you know, so far this season, 2 wins against amateur teams, 2 losses against pro teams. They would love to finally take one here off of ROX, as that would be a big confidence booster and, you know, a big boon on their path towards reaching that postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I mean, they were looking to try to make that upset happen against both Live Sandbox and KWANGDONGFREECS. It did not come through, and so they say, okay, well, back to the pro team punching bag of SEONGNAMROX. Let's see if we can do that. And now Aura, they did win the coin flip, so they take speed priority, and they'll be taking us first right to WKC Singapore Circuit.
Yeah, Singapore Circuit here in track #1, followed by Terracotta Twister as track #2, Mine Winding Slopes, Glacier Extreme Stadium, and Forest Zigzag Timberland. And I gotta say, Will, if this one goes to track 5, I think this might be my favorite 5-track set that we've gotten so far, or at least that I've casted here at KDL Preseason 2. I mean, Terracotta Twister, Winding Slopes, Extreme Stadium, and Zigzag Timberlands especially, very hard technical tracks, very difficult. And I mean, these are 2 teams that are at the top of their game when it comes to team speed. So I'm excited to see them kind of flex their muscles here on some of the more challenging tracks that we have to offer at KDL.
Yeah, absolutely. And both teams, they are actually very focused on trying to get even the 1-2 just to secure every track, right? I mean, they have the roster to support that strategy. So curious to see how that works out. I am glad to see that Aura picks up Singapore right away. That's a track that they've seemed to favor here and there. And also one that, you know, ROX doesn't seem as confident in. A lot of the WKC tracks, basically. ROX definitely likes to focus on those technical, difficult tracks, especially with the racers like Ding and John, but we'll see how it starts out tonight in round 1 of speed mode between these 2 teams. It is going to be SEONGNAM versus Aura on WKC Singapore Circuit. And the race begins between SEONGNAMROX and Aura. Here on Singapore Circuit, we do have Aura Hero currently holding the record with 2.06.
Yeah, Spell and Ding off to a fantastic start. Battling with Hero right now. I want to keep our eyes on Ding and Hero over the course of this team speed match. I feel like we're going to see them butting head-to-head. Keep in mind, for you watching at home, this is the rank 1 and the rank 2 racers here in team speed. So a lot of contention, a lot of pride on the line, and 2 of the best in the business to do it.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, again, we have both ROX and Aura sending 2 racers up ahead, trying to vie for that 1-2 spot if possible. Right behind them, it's Stutzy and C's trying to provide support in the middle part of the pack.
Yeah, Nitro Gain seems a little bit better right now for Team Aura, so we'll see if they're able to use that to get some more meta up here at the front of the pack and lend some assistance here for Hero, who's battling hard in that 1v1 spot for rank 1 with Ding. Ding not really giving up any ground right now as we see C's trying to take a line to potentially, you know, cause some problems here for Spell, but as of yet, not able to find it.
Yeah, and Ding's actually just going to try to avoid it, try to make sure that he's lined up for the turn coming up as they go into lap 2, and that allows him to keep a hold of that rank 1 spot, and he is individually still trying to stay ahead of Hero in both team and individual boosts, right? And a lot of that comes from Jung and Ditsy trying to provide a lot of that team boost from behind.
Yeah, some nice body blocking there by Spell, but Nock and C's are both able to slip through, and actually Spell with a nice boost right there, able to sweep yet again, coming back to reinforce the flank here behind Ding. But behind all this action, all this sweeping, Hero has supplanted Ding for the first place position, so Aura's looking in a commanding spot.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's really up to Ding, right? This is one of those tracks, a lot of the WKC tracks, you don't have too many opportunities for players like Jung to suddenly shoot forward. And so if Aura starts to really avoid giving the draft timings, Ding has to hold on to this #1 spot.
Yeah, Ding right now, he's got it, but Hero with a wide line, able to pass him yet again as we enter the latter portion of lap number 2. Ding is going to try and find some way to pass him, but oh, a nice collision there by Hero, bouncing off the wall, colliding there with Ding, will push him all the way to the back, and Aura is going to deliver another 1-2 finish. Hero and Nock on the top.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if you give Hero that chance and have someone to back up, one of the reasons Hero was able to play a little bit aggressively in that last turn is, worst case, you still have Nock right behind you. You still have the point lead, right? So you get the call that, okay, well, ROX currently sitting at 6th, 7th, and 8th place. As long as we don't give Ding first place and, maybe somehow allow everyone else to catch up, we should be okay. You get that call, Hero says, okay, well, let's just try to solidify this. I'll block. Worst case, Nock, you take the inner line and take over first place. Hero actually successfully stops and is able to clock in at the 1-2 position here for Aura.
Yeah, that was a fun 1v1 battle for the majority of that track there between Hero and Ding, as I expect to see a lot more of that to come. But at the end of the day, it did feel like Aura just had more support there for Hero than ROX did.
Yeah,
Ding.
Yeah, no, I think a big part of that, again, is Jung is the type of player who can provide so much support for Ding, both in terms of just placement and a little bit of that aggressive play that he often does, even though he's not a designated sweeper. However, that's when you're on these tracks that have the technicalities, that have the difficult turns, where Jung is able to kind of really perfect his technique to overtake, not the type of field tracks that we have.
Yeah, but now we're moving to one of those more technical tracks. We're going to go to Terracotta Twister for track number 2. Let's get to it. And off we go again, ROX versus Aura. Aura with a 1-0 lead right now heading into Terracotta Twister. Let's see if they can repeat that 1-2 finish they had in track number 1, as that has really been their bread and butter so far here in Team Speed.
Yeah, after that first round that we just saw on WKC's Singapore circuit, I am curious if Aura specifically has a plan to try to block out Jung, right? Maybe try to tie him up so that he can't provide the support. Or was that just kind of the nature of the track, not a track that Jung can shine in?
Yeah, we'll have to see. For now, I mean, Jung has been controlled. Seas is right ahead of him here in 5th place. Jung right now in 6th, so a little bit further back than he would like to be as we enter the inner tomb portion of Terracotta Twister. Everyone taking quite conservative lines, in fact, not too aggressive. Actually, Ding, no, was too aggressive, in fact.
Yeah.
I jinxed it, man. He falls down there, takes too tight the line. One more player from Aura also did fall, so it's a bit of tit for tat, but ROX losing Ding and having him fall all the way down to 7th place takes a lot of the wind out of their sails.
And you can tell Jung just suddenly decides, okay, well, now it's up to me, right? The way that he's playing, and he is really good, even in these 1v2s. Once he has a placement in the podium finishes, this is where he starts to shine. He's got the support of Dutzy right behind him as well.
Yeah, Dutzy doing some nice sweeping right there on Luning as Jung continues to battle out now with Nock here for the rank 1 position. You see Jung, he's just trying to find a draft, trying to find a line where he can supplant Nock and get that first place spot, but Luning coming back in the New York City tour bus might be able to cause some problems.
Yeah, now the most important thing is C is currently locked in at 8th place for Aura, so SEONGNAMROX, they have a couple options if Jung and Dutzy can try to get a point lead here in the top 4.
Yeah, once again, going through these very precarious turns. As Dutzy actually spins out a little bit there, loses quite a bit of momentum, did not fall off the track, so he will at least retain 6th place, but now with only 500 meters left to go, Jung, he has to hold on to this first place. It all comes down to this.
Yeah, if he can do that, and if Spell can just try to eke into 3rd, can he do it? Oh, no, it's going to be Dutzy and Ding helping solidify it as well.
Wow.
The first place secured by Jung. What heroics from Jung, and this is where he shines, right? When your team is in trouble, if he's in the middle of the pack, he can shoot forward. If he just has to block off a little bit, he can be that chaotic force in the middle of the pack, and ROX will be able to take that round 2.
Yeah, in a very precarious fashion, too. I mean, if one thing didn't go right for them, that 1-point lead, 1-4-6-7. If one more racer is one position back, everything falls apart. So some nice cohesion there from ROX, and keep in mind, that was after Ding had that rare blunder and lap number 1 coming through the inner portion of Terracotta Twister where he fell off the track. He fell all the way back into 7th place, and you know, ROX, even without the team speed god so far here in KDL Preseason 2 performing up to his standard, we're still able to tie it up 1-1.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Although it was because of Ding that they got into trouble and then JJONG had to hold on to first, because Ding just recovered enough to get back into 7th place instead of 8th, that's how they were able to secure that 1-point lead. If he was sitting in 8th at the end of that track, they would not have been able to take that win. So props to the entire squad, like you said, State, of SEONGNAMROX. Looks like we got a replay here. This is the first part of the lap where Ding, he just tries to cut across a little bit too close, right over the edge of that corner, and he just falls right to his death.
Yeah, C's fell right behind him too, and here on lap number 2, we see actually Ding with another bad collision, but was still able to make it his way up to 7th place, so.
And you can see C's, he's just trying to block him out. He knows that's how they win, and Ding finds, you know, after that collision, that C's is losing a little bit of speed. Ding gets that draft, takes the inner, and he's barely able to brush on by before getting bumped into the wall, and he's able to cross the finish line in 7th place.
I actually didn't even catch that second collision there with Ding in the inner portion of Terracotta Twister again, so despite both of those blunders being able to retain 7th place and deliver the win for ROX, definitely coming through when it matters most as well. I think we're getting ready to go to track number 3, all tied up 1-1 now. The best of 5 is the best of 3 as we move to Mine Winding Slopes.
Kicking things off here on Winding Slopes, another track where Aura holds the current record for team speed. It's held by C's. See if he can repeat that performance once again.
Yeah, right now Aura off to a great start. Knock once again up here in the top ranks, but with Dutzy and JJONG and also Ding all battling it out, this is a bit of a scary position here for Aura, although they hold on to the point lead right now because that's a lot of ROX's top talent near the first place position.
Oh, and Ding's in a position where he could cause some chaos. He's actually just going to avoid any potential collisions. He doesn't want to risk it. Goes a little bit wider on that jump. Make sure he saves himself along with his teammates.
Knock went for a very aggressive sweep there. Man, some fantastic sweeping by Knock. Look at this maneuverability as he just continuously blocked player after player after player and was still able to retain 3rd place.
Yeah, meanwhile, C's actually was trying to recover off of that speed that Knock was trying to hold off the entire forces of, including his own teammates. So C's falls all the way back down to 8th, but currently Luning still in 1st place. That's allowing Aura to stay just ahead in the point standings.
Yeah, Dutzy's going to try his best to battle it out and pass Luning here, but Luning with some nice body checks. It is really hard. No, Dutzy actually went for the 360, was not able to find the angle to get past Luning, but a rare mistake there. They collides with the wall, and that's going to be Dutzy and Ding breaking away.
Yeah, Nox just barely on the tail, but it's not enough. He can't force the pressure against Ding, and it's a 1-2 finish. And man, you got to feel for Luning. He got the first block off the spin turn, but he tries to block again. And, we just see Dutzy say, okay, well, goodbye. Like, I'm not going to actually collide into you this time. I'm not going to continue the spin turn. It looked like, based on the build that we saw the adjustment from Luning, that he thought the spin turn would continue from Dutzy to try to maintain that momentum. And Dutzy just says, no, I'll just boost right on by.
Yeah, that would have been a heroic play there for Luning if he was able to pull it off. It's actually ROX not only taking the win, but also taking the track record here with Dutzy at 1.17 as they deliver a 1-2 finish. And, Ding, we're hyping him up coming into this match. In track 1 and track 2, he wasn't quite able to deliver, but now back in the top 2.
Yeah, and that's how you know that SEONGNAMROX has definitely grown, is that they don't need one of their star players to always have to get that top finish, right? It doesn't have to be JJONG, it doesn't have to be Ding. If one of them falters, then you still got your other players in Dutzy and Spell who can provide, just the stability you need, or maybe even that first place to clutch it up. We'll see if they can continue it again on their pick this time as we get into round 4. Will SEONGNAMROX close out speed mode as we go into Glacier Extreme Stadium?
Match point here for ROX versus Aura, as ROX only needs to win one of the next 2 tracks to secure the speed mode victory. And Will, they're already off to a great start. Ding and JJONG, the best two racers on this team, already in first and second place.
Yeah, we're just seeing some interesting stats here. The fact that Hero hasn't needed a single draft recently in his last match on Extreme Stadium, right? He just shot into first place and was able to keep it. That just tells us once he's in position, he's not going to let it go. But currently, he is going to need a couple of those drafts if he wants to try to shoot ahead.
Yeah, there's some nice sweeping coming out of Ditzy and Spell, trying to slow him down. They know what a threat he can be if he can work his way back up into first place. And so just trying to provide some breathing room are those lower ranking ROX players just to let JJONG and Ding do their thing.
Yeah, now JJONG and Ding, if they can hold on to just this double team in the podium finishes, it's going to be good. But Nock, right now, he's just going to try to play it safe, right? He just wants to make sure he's in position so that when Hero catches up, they can try to make a team play.
Yeah, waiting for the cavalry to come in right now is Nock, as Ding, the end of lap number 1, is able to retain that first place position. Now Hero, you called it, man. He's coming up hot on the tail of JJONG, trying to do a little bit of a collision there.
Yeah, and JJONG just closes him out. Ding also having a good defense against Nock. Now JJONG, after some defense, he's back to provide support, but Hero's hot on his tail, and we can see Hero's trying to go for a lot of these stutter drifts just to try to maintain his boost gauge while keeping up the acceleration, and it's working out.
Yeah, the body checks have also been fantastic here for Hero, as JJONG finally able to break through into third place. As we enter the tricky portion here, the hairpin turns yet again. Nock right now in first place. Will he be able to retain it? Feels like ROX has their full strength behind him.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2, 3, 4 for ROX, and even if they get first place, it's just cherry on top. Ding does not have to take any risks here. It's really up to Nock. The ball's in his court. He doesn't go for a stop. He does try to go for a little bit of a block, but it's not going to be nearly enough. Another 1-2 finish for JJONG and Ding here for SEONGNAMROX.
Yeah, ROX's star racers coming through in the clutch there. JJONG and Ding delivering a 1-2 finishes. And that has been their modus operandi, it feels like, throughout all of KDL Preseason 2. Many of their wins here at Team Speed have been when they have, you know, either Ding or JJONG or both of them up there getting the 1-2 finish. And that's going to be a 3-1 win here for ROX in speed mode.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is that while the track draft, I think, could have gone either way, it's just, I mean, picking up something like Winding Slopes, right, and then allowing, you know, some of these more difficult tracks to still continue to live on against a team like ROX, where you never know when that wild card's going to suddenly shoot forward, right, in either JJONG or Ding or Ditzy. Any one of those three spells probably the most, like, kind of consistent role here for SEONGNAMROX. So, you know, Aura took a chance, but they weren't able to come out on top. However, now all eyes go over to item mode.
Yeah, item mode as the aces will come out, try and lend some support here as he take getting swapped in here for Team Aura. Hero is out as the Noctech duo will try to, you know, live up to the reputation that they have earned over years and years of Kart Rider, both in Kart Rider League and here in the KDL Preseason 1. But as of yet, Aura, they have not really been meeting expectations here, as you know, it feels like all of the teams, or almost all of the teams that excelled in the meta of item mode in KDL Preseason 1 right now, are kind of struggling a bit to adjust to the much more varied strategies in KDL Preseason 2. But ROX Esports, it's kind of the same story for them. They are certainly doing better here in item mode in KDL Preseason 2, but historically they haven't been able to match up well against ROX, or against Aura, excuse me. So we'll see if Aura is able to continue to deliver.
Yeah, I think the biggest question has been that Tech used to always be known for how good he is with the water bombs, and that is a big part of the current meta. However, that's why a lot of people thought, okay, well, Aura's going to be even stronger now, and it's actually been the reverse, like you said, State. We'll see if they're able to flip that here with the track selection. Of course, SEONGNAMROX, they lost the coin flip, so they have first pick here in item mode, and they're going to kick things off over on Factory Cogwheel Crush.
Yeah, Sphinx's Riddle, London Knight, Mushroom Caves, and Motherlode will round out the set should we go all the way to a track number 5. And Cogwheel Crush, a really fun one to start things off here. A lot of varied strategies, especially with this new, more aggressive meta with the higher proc rates on these aggressive items that can drop now. You know, the nerf of things like Angel Shield really coming into play a lot here so far in KDL Preseason 2 is, you know, over the past couple of weeks, I feel like we're starting to get to the point where these teams are kind of figuring out the meta on specific maps, but it doesn't feel like it's iron tight yet. So I'm curious to see what these teams have in store for us here in item mode as we're getting ready to kick it off. Will, we're going to item mode, ROX versus Aura on Factory Cogwheel Crush.
And We begin on ROX's choice here of Cogwheel Crush. It's a 2-lapper. We'll see kind of what ideas both teams seem to have. Okay, just a strong holdback coming in from Aura, just making sure they can keep up the tempo with that early water bomb.
That was a really nice water bomb. And I'm loving this UI that we have here in the bottom left, actually able to see exactly how the attacks come in. Have I been blind this whole time, or
yes.
is this new?
No, this was in the patch starting at Preseason 2, before Preseason 2.
I can't believe I never noticed this.
Yes,
oh my goodness.
This is, of course, if you guys have been playing on the live as well, it came through after Preseason 1 ended. So we have the log, the battle log basically coming in for the attacks and defenses as well. So you'll really notice if there's any of those clutch EMPs or even the shields and angels. As we see, again, just a lot of water bombs for the players behind, but they are in decent position, so they're going to just try to find the right timing here, whether it's right before or after the shortcut.
I'm actually flabbergasted that I missed the battle log. Luning tried to take that shortcut, but was just a hair late. He's going to have to join everybody else here on the shorter path right now. JJONG with a little bit of a breakaway, but you know, sees right there where that magnet will be able to equalize it, as that truly is the great equalizer should you be able to connect.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of teams, if you're able to get one lightning, try to save up for a double, right? See if it comes through, because that's just so strong. Now, however, JJONG does have double shield, so you're going to have to constantly throw out some other attacks to start to bait out a lot of those shields, and he'll be able to replenish those as well because he's in first place.
Yeah, looking at the lower standings right now, a lot of magnets and nitrous is both getting stacked up and not really being rotated out except for some aggressive items here and there. So there's a lot of finishing potential for both teams across pretty much the whole roster.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. ROX's arsenal has been very solid so far. JJONG constantly swapping between shields and EMPs. He's going to start to negate a lot of those magnets as well, and sees it's really just a lightning bolt that he's holding on to and a couple boosts on both teams, but is that going to be enough? JJONG enters the shortcut as well.
Yeah, he's in the shortcut. He has double shields. Tech, though, he does have a magnet, so watch to see him pop that out if he can. Magnet does get connected. Tech is going to be on the high ground, but he gets slowed down so many attacks.
Oh, and Luning barely still crosses over, though, thankfully for Aura. I love what JJONG does, right? He gets hit by the UFO early, he drops down, and just says, okay, I know the magnet's being used on me, I'll try to draw them backwards. However, at the end of the day, just one extra boost here overall on the side of Aura, and Luning will barely inch forward to cross the finish line first.
Yeah, for a second there, I really thought ROX was going to be able to close it out, but Luning coming through on the outside, just a fraction of a second ahead of Dutzy, and that's going to be item mode track number 1 going to Luning here on Cogwheel Crush. That was one of the more wild endings that we've had. It felt like both teams really had fully stacked inventories there. There was so much happening, so many attacks, all these magnets popping. We had nitrous in the bag, crazy stuff.
Yeah, what I'm really starting to see overall, like you said, sure, per track we're seeing different interpretations of the overall meta. However, one thing we're seeing develop is that tempo is the king, right? So a lot of them will start to dump their utility and item a little bit earlier. So Dutzy thinks he has the opening here. They're able to angel shield that, the magnet and the boost. He thinks he can move forward, but the UFO barely slows him down enough. I didn't catch that right at the end. And that gives way for Luning to just barely cross over first.
Yeah, that UFO proccing just in time to give Luning the space he needs to cross in first and deliver a win there for Aura, as they're now up 1-0 here in item mode. As we move on to track number 2, it'll be Desert Sphinx's Riddle. And off we go. Let's see if Aura can continue to build on this lead here in item mode and potentially continue us on the path towards an ace match.
Yeah, I mean, this was their selection, so we'll see what the idea is. Just happy to hang back, make sure they can stay ahead in that tempo, try to get more of those attacking items, and a little bit of an answer back towards Knock as well.
Yeah, so many missiles coming out right now. JJONG and Dutzy especially just getting absolutely blasted, as a little bit tit for tat as Water Whisk does connect there with an Aura player. And now we see Tech and Ding trying to break away a little bit here. Tech doesn't have too much. I mean, I was going to say he doesn't have much speed utility here in the bag, but really neither does Ding for a second. They're just holding on to 2 bananas.
Yeah, not much to work with for Ding. I think right now it seems like ROX just says, okay, well, Ding, you're pretty far ahead, so just try to keep that standing, defend it, try to bait out a lot of these other attacks so we can force Aura to cycle through and not be able to hold on to something like that Lightning. Tech's been holding on to that ever since the middle of lap 1, and it looks like once again Aura says, we want at least one Lightning in the bag, see if we can get a double.
And Ding has actually gotten 4 shields in a row, so he's been really able to soak up a lot of this aggro coming in. Unfortunately, twice also water balloons have connected with him, so that's going to be Ding falling all the way back to 8th place, but he did a good job of, eating up the aggro there from Aura for a long time for his teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. And now an Angel Shield in the bag for Dudzy as well, so probably something they'll save up for that one Lightning. And this now signifies to Aura, okay, well, we're going to need something extra, right? Either we need a lot more missiles or wisps instantly to try to bait out that Angel Shield first, or hopefully for Aura, another Lightning Bolt.
And we'll see exactly what the plan is going to be right now, as Take is the only player here on Aura holding on to a Lightning Bolt. Oftentimes we do see teams try to stack those up to 2, possibly even 3, heading in towards that finish line. As now here on lap number 3, we start to see the item list start to really fill out. And, once again, similar to track number 1, a lot of nitrous and a lot of magnets all in the bag. Yeah,
and JJONG currently, he's just trying to avoid any of that action, right? He's still got an EMP on his own as well. You still got an Angel Shield from Dudzy. ROX overall not sitting too bad here on the defensive items that they would want.
I think they actually only have the Angel Shield right now with only 400 meters left to go, so it's going to have to be a clutch one. But a lot of speed here as the UFO will come in on Plancy, slows him down. Nock and Luning are racing, but JJONG just barely fast enough on the left side as ROX, although they didn't really have a lot of attacking or defensive utility, they had so much speed in their inventory. It felt like every player had a nitrous or a magnet or both, and I mean, there were just too many bodies for Aura to handle. ROX had such a strong midfield that they were just able to swarm the goalpost there, tie us up 1-1.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Aura, once again, the idea was the same, right? Try to just force all of these attacks on whoever is in the lead for ROX, and even if it's kind of just them acting as, aggro, you're positioning Luning to be whoever has that nitrous, whoever has that boost, to be able to cross the finish line first. However, you just weren't really accounting for the fact that there was one extra attack coming in from ROX alongside the boost, of course, for Dudzy. And so it's going to be ROX crossing that finish line first, tying us up 1-1.
And so far, SEONGNAMROX versus Aura has really delivered. We knew coming into this one that this would be a very hotly contested match, both in speed and in item. And here we are, once again, in item mode, tied up 1-1. We started speed 1-1. We'll see if ROX can fight back here in track number 3 and get closer and closer to closing this thing out as we get a bit of a recap here. Lap number 1. These are all the water balloons coming in as...
Yeah, we saw so many double water balloons.
Yeah,
and you see him, he's constantly using it that way because that way you bait out the shield but still make sure you target him, right? So he's getting hit no matter what, and you're forcing him basically to waste that shield. You can still replenish your item boxes. So I like that idea coming in from Aura.
I think we actually saw later in the track too, some shields not getting popped to defend against water balloons because they were anticipating them being doubles yet again. So a little bit of mind games coming in on both sides as we get ready to move to track number 3. All tied up 1-1 right now as we move on to World Tour London Night.
SEONGNAMROX trying to repeat what they did in speed mode. Of course, after the 1-1 tie, they were able to close things out 3-1. Can they do the same here on World Tour London Night?
We'll see. As World Tour London Night has been kind of a tricky map here in this meta, the way that the finish line closes out with the bridge, with the obstacle, as we see right here, and also the Ferris wheel, and then that tight corner. It can be hard to aim a lot of these aggressive items that players usually have at their disposal. And so far, at least in the games that I've been casting, we've had a lot of surprise finishes. So I'm very curious to see exactly what both teams cook up here coming in towards the finish line, as it feels like, as far as the map pool goes here in team item, this is one of the ones that maybe has the least figured out meta across the teams.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we saw yesterday to account for what you just mentioned in terms of trying to accurately attack in the last lap was, using things like the magnet or, even a UFO potentially if you have it to slow them down to make sure that you're hitting something like the water bomb or even giving time for the wisps to catch up. And so we'll see if that is part of the idea here as Tech just gets a nice little bump off of the drawbridge. We're already seeing, again, magnets, they're still strong, right? If you're not seeing EMPs being saved up on the other side, you're still going to see that magnet to full effect.
Yeah, especially in the mid game, if one player is just trying to break away a little bit like Planzy is right here. you know, say Luning or Knock is able to get in a range and pop that magnet, that can just very quickly equalize any lead that Luning was able to gain.
Yeah, and one thing I just noticed, Jung, he's holding on to the double magnets. He didn't use it to refresh on those items, so curious to see what the idea is there. He will be able to really throw a wrench into Aura's plans if they're not careful.
Yeah, we actually have the exact same thing coming out of Knock right now, also not rotating through these items, so a little bit of a curious idea here as both these players work lower in the rankings here as we get closer and closer to that finish line. Only 600 meters away now, Will.
Oh, and that shield is going to be huge on Dutzy, but it's not going to be enough just yet. But Jung does shoot forward with the first magnet. He gets held back, and the lightning hits. No angel available. Aura's been saving that one up for the entire final lap, and it comes in handy as they secure the finish line and lead 2-1.
That Thunderbolt was so clutch for Aura as well because Plansy, right as he came into that final straightaway, he had a Nitro in the back. He was saving it for that last moment, but right when he wanted to pop it, that's when he got hit by the lightning bolt, and that took all the wind out of their sails. As Aura brings us one track win away from forcing an ace match now.
Yeah, here's the thing is that one thing we noticed again yesterday as well, I think we'll continue to notice this, especially if you have more than one, but even when you have one, sure, it slows him down, but it also makes you miss that timing on the items, right? If that lightning strikes you, you basically get stuck with that shock for a brief second, and that can really mess up your timings. Maybe you don't get the targeting right on something like the magnet or a missile, and so Aura once again holding on to that lightning. That's been their MO the entire day, at least have one as an insurance plan, and this time around it works out perfectly. See the timing here from Luning.
Yeah, just look at this. He has the Nitro right here, but he gets zapped, man. And if that doesn't happen, maybe he is able to overtake C's there in that final moment, as oftentimes here in item mode now, we do have a lot of players, or at least some players on each team, really maximizing the boost on their cards for that Hail Mary finish. But this time, ROX not able to deliver some nice item usage out of Aura as, no, it's match point.
Yeah, we'll see if they can close things out. Maybe bring us to an ace match state as we get ready for round 4 here on item mode. We are going to go to Aura's pick on Forest Mushroom Caves.
Off we go on Forest Mushroom Caves, or just one track win away from forcing that ace match that I know I would love to see, and many fans watching at home would love to see, as these teams have really been putting on a show today.
Yeah, and both teams, they have a couple options now to send out on the ace match, so curious to see who might be coming out as a representative, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. SEONGNAMROX, they still have a chance to try to catch back up and close things out 2-0.
Yeah, just 2 tracks away from them and closing this one out 2-0. As that was a nice water bomb, actually, connecting a number of players right there. As JJONG, he is trying to break away. I do see Tech hitting him with a couple of missiles there, and that will equalize things a bit as the field here at the top of the ranks is quite dense. We don't really have any one racer getting a lot of distance ahead of their opponents.
Yeah, no one getting too far ahead, and a lot of that, I think, because of the racers just want to hang back, try to refresh their items, right? If it's clumped up, they've been slowing down, lining up their water bombs, things like that. ROX, whether for better or worse, they've been getting a lot of these double angel shields and EMPs. The EMPs will be cycled through a little bit faster, but JJONG seems to think, okay, the lightning bolts have been coming in every time. They're still holding on to one, as we can see right now, once again for Aura. So let's try to keep at least one of those angel shields ready to go for the later part of the race.
Yeah, Dusty's got an EMP as well, and I would be very surprised if he cycled that one out here in lap number 2, as might be playing a little bit more of a supporting role here. Ding also right now with Nitrous and an EMP, so a lot of options here on Team ROX, and that actually will give Dutzy the freedom to rotate that one item out.
Yeah, and he's just going to be able to try to get an attack here with the water bomb. However, he can't fall back to try to aim that, so he's just going to throw it out, maybe bait out that shield, and that is accurate. The boost coming through. Will Ding be able to find the angle for it? He wants to try to cycle through.
Yeah, he wants to try to cycle through. Angel Shield does pop. 100 meters left to go. Keep in mind that there were magnets, but not going to be enough, as ROX is going to tie it up 2-2. Actually with a 1-2-3 finish, so a very safe one there for ROX. Of course, you're in item mode. It's all about whichever racer crosses the finish line first. But I mean, for ROX with Dutzy, Plansy, and Ding all coming through there ahead of the players on Aura, I mean, that was a nice win for them. Very solid.
Yeah, and again, it's all off the back of that Angel Shield, right? They start to get the read that, okay, Aura's always going to save at least one Lightning. You know, maybe they stack more than one, and then we'll have to adjust what our game plan is. But at least one of us should hold on to this Angel Shield no matter how early you get it. JJONG actually got the double in the middle of the first lap. He cycles through one as they enter lap 2 for tempo, but he holds on to the last one, times it right for the Lightning Bolt. And quite frankly, for Aura, one thing that doesn't work out is that while they had the Lightning Bolt as that insurance, they weren't able to cycle through for any other targeted attacks like the Wisp, like the missiles. So while they had a couple good water bombs, it was not enough to slow down SEONGNAMROX.
Yeah, some magnets in the inventory too, but I never saw any of them really come to fruition right there at the final moment. So ROX just with a solid win, and we're going to go to a final track here in item mode. If Aura wins, we are going to an ace match. If ROX win, it will be a clean 2-0 sweep as we move on to Mind Motherload.
Both teams, SEONGNAMROX and Aura, looking for that extra win. SEONGNAMROX trying to solidify themselves in the top 3, and Aura currently in danger of getting shoved out of that top 4 ranking. They desperately want this to go to an ace match.
Yeah, Aura really wants to win this one. Not only this track, but the ace match. It's try to stay ahead of Sensation as they are neck and neck. I mean, coming into today, it was a 1-round differential between them as a tiebreaker there for positions 4 and positions 5, and that is the cutoff for the playoffs. So the pressure is on here for Aura to continue to deliver, and here in item mode so far, they have been doing it, but ROX showing a lot of life.
Now here's the thing, Nock, he gets that Lightning Bolt again early. This is a 3-lapper. It looks like his game plan is still to hold on to that, but you have to start to think, if you're holding on to that the entire time, you're not creating as many other opportunities to cycle out, right? So there is a bit of a numbers game here that Aura needs to think about, because if you can't stack the Lightnings, how much is it really going to be worth when ROX starts to stack these shields?
Yeah, especially there in 8th place. I mean, you would love Nock to slow down and try and double up on the items here as he's coming through in lap number 2, and you know, he finally does work his way up the ranks a little bit there. Still holding on that Lightning, but you're right. I mean, that is one less item that you can't hold on to, and it seems like he's just going to commit to it this whole race.
Yeah, and looks like he's just going to use the boost to try to get ahead. At least that way he can cycle through, get some of his own shields, try to draw out that aggro, see if that pays off for Aura as we near the end of lap 2. Ding just taking the wider route to cycle through his items. The water bomb's going to be good against Nock. And Nock, once again, he's even going to get denied some of these item opportunities at all.
Yeah, he got hit by a rocket as well, so that's a lot of aggro there coming on Nock. He falls all the way down into 8th place, just pure support coming from him, as he would love to try and get, you know, maybe an Angel Shield or something else to help his teammates out, as he's still holding on to that Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, it's going to come in handy. Both teams got an Angel Shield, so if Aura can have a couple of the targeted attacks, they should have an opening here for the Lightning Bolt. Meanwhile, that means without a lot of EMPs on either side, the Magnets might be what really helps one of the players cross the finish line first.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Ding right now with double nitrous. He does pop one to try and take this shortcut, as he's going to be probably the lead racer here for ROX coming down this stretch.
Luning and C's also near that podium finish. C's does have an extra magnet should someone try to shoot ahead. The Lightning Bolt still in the hand of Aura as well. It's going to try to slow down JJONG. JJONG shields against it, and now it's up to them, but JJONG's trying to body block against Luning. He's still doing a great job, and he's able to secure the first place. They both took the narrow ramp up, and JJONG says, well, welcome to my track. We will be moving on with yet another win in 2-0 fashion against Aura.
Man, I actually cannot believe that ROX walked away with a victory on that one. I was looking at the inventories there, the final stretch, and I think their last 3 players had nothing in the bag. It was all on JJONG there to come through in the clutch, come through those defensive items, and just barely cross that finish line. He was able to do it. So ROX with a clean 2-0 win. We will not have an ace match today. Aura, although this will be a defeat, it was a close one. It was 3-1 in speed, 3-2 here in items. So in terms of, you know, round differential, it's not going to hurt them that bad, especially against a pro team here like ROX. But the path for Team Aura to reaching the postseason becomes a little bit more precarious now, because Sensation firmly ahead of them in 4th place.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that now that you have all the pro teams out of the way, Aura has no more excuses, right? You have to win all of your remaining matches, and even then, it may not even be entirely in your own hands. Maybe you have to rely on Sensation losing a couple of theirs as well. So Aura, they're not in the spot that a lot of people expected them to be. A lot of people thought, okay, they had such a strong showing in Preseason 1, they're probably a shoo-in for top 4. The top 4 probably will not change. here in Preseason 2, but we have been gifted a surprise as Aura, they just haven't been able to get a good pulse on the new item meta. Meanwhile, ROX, they look stronger in both speed and item mode this time around.
Yeah, the item mode really hurting Aura here in KDL Preseason 2 is, the addition of Luning now as their speed ace, the former Reboot hybrid player coming in for Team Aura, has made them a much more formidable opponent here in speed, but speed is only half of the sets that you play here in KDL Preseason. Item mode matters a lot, and so far the new meta just really hasn't been going their way. They were able to make a very close show of it here, 3-2 in item mode, just one track win away from forcing that ace match, but at the end of the day, SEONGNAMROX delivering yet another 2-0 clean win.
Yeah, they're looking strong, right? And they're now up there 4-0 win-loss record alongside Live Sandbox and KWANGDONGFREECS. Of course, those two teams will be playing next. And SEONGNAMROX, they're kind of putting in their own bid to say we're coming for the top 2 spots here in the overall team standings.
Yeah, and as far as teams go, actually, SEONGNAMROX, I didn't realize this coming into today, but they have the highest round win rate by a considerable margin here in KDL Preseason 2 for item mode specifically. So to be able to come in and defeat Aura, who in KDL Preseason 1 was one of the most impressive item mode teams that we had on the field, is very impressive stuff. ROX looking so strong so far, and I would not be surprised to see them make a play to go all the way to the finals.
Yeah, I would not be surprised either. I mean, of course, we always knew, some of the individual power that they had, but again, in Preseason 1, it was always like, well, you got to rely on the ace match. How good can that be? You kind of have to make sure you get the speed match, because if you lose that, you don't even get to the ace. And this time around, they say, okay, even in team speed, we've got other players we can rely on. Even in item mode, our game plan is better. We're understanding the meta better. And then worst case, we still have more than just JJONG to show up for the ace matches.
Yeah, it certainly feels like they're one of the most well-rounded team, if not the most well-rounded team here in KDL Preseason 2. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best, because like the Freaks, for example, trying to beat them in speed mode is like a David versus Goliath story for pretty much any team that we have here on the field. But I mean, ROX just looking so strong right now.
Yeah, ROX is looking, I think, very promising. And I think maybe even getting to that position that a lot of fans wanted to see them grow into after, the potential that we saw in Preseason 1. So overall, I mean, this is what you want to see in these preseasons, right? Is that, okay, well, is there hope for metas shifting? Is there hope for the standings to shift between the powerhouse teams and not? Teams like Aura, teams like SEONGNAMROX, and even Sensation starting to say, okay, it's not just about Live Sandbox and KWANGDONGFREECS, right? We're still only in the preseason. Players are still improving. They're figuring out their own metas here in both speed and item. So can't wait to see what happens. But speaking of the powerhouse team state, we got another team match lined up for everyone at home tonight. It's going to be Live Sandbox versus KWANGDONGFREECS, the rematch of the Preseason 1 finals. We'll be watching that when we come back from the short break.
Stopping me. Nobody stopping me. Nobody stopping me. nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me.